Hey you guys, it's me, Chef Nikki. Thank you so much for joining me on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to cut up a whole chicken. It's really easy, really quick, really simple. Let's jump right into it. So you want to make sure you have a sharp knife. What I'm going to be using is what's called a utility knife, which is a smaller version of a chef's knife. It's very sharp and it's small. You don't want to use a whole chef's knife, a big one, to cut up a chicken. It's going to be more difficult. You need maximum capability and be able to move your knife really well. So as you can see, all I'm doing is cutting through the skin that lies under the breast between the leg and the thigh. And then you flip the chicken over and you literally bend the leg and thigh connection backwards, and it's going to pop the bone. You're literally going to hear the bone snap, okay? Once the bone snaps, you know that you've done it right. Flip your chicken back over and we're going to get started on the breast. When you slide your finger down the middle, you'll feel that breastplate or that breastbone, and you're going to cut down the side of the breastbone fairly close and release that breast meat from the side of the bone, okay? And just kind of glide your knife down the side. You don't have to put too much pressure on your knife. If your knife is really sharp, it's gonna do most of the work for you. So I'm just gliding my knife down the sides of the breastplate to release that meat and also to remove it away from the cartilage. Again, just simply gliding your knife down the side and working your way up towards the top of the breast, and you're going to get closer to the chicken wing. So keep gliding your knife back all the way to the top, and you're going to start cutting down through the top of that breast. We're getting closer to the wing. And then I like to flip my chicken this way so that I can see what I'm doing. And as you can see, we're getting very close to the wing. You'll get to the bone, you'll see it, and you stick your finger down there to make sure you're in the middle of the joint. And if your knife is sharp, it will literally cut right between the joint. You guys, we're not cutting into actual bone. We're cutting in between joints. So see how easily my knife just cuts through that, and we've gotten through the joints very easily and very clean. It should be that way at home. If you're struggling to cut through that piece, you're probably trying to cut through bone, and that's not what we're doing here. We're not cutting through any bone. So let's do the other side. It's the same thing. Now we're going to cut down the other side of the breastplate. So as you can see, there's a bone right in the middle. We can't cut through that, so we're cutting next to it, gliding our knife down the side of that breastbone up towards the top of the chicken breast. And again, keep gliding your knife while pulling that chicken breast back, and eventually you're going to get to your wing bone. Keep gliding it, and you can flip the breast back and you'll get to that bone. There's a little bit of cartilage there, and again, your knife needs to be very sharp in order for this to work properly. So we're cutting all the way through down, and now I'm just cutting back up to show you guys. I wanted to make sure I got all of that breast meat, and since I turned my chicken the other way, I had to cut upwards to do that. So there we cut right between that cartilage and in between the bone joint, so it was really easy. And there we have the breast connected to the wing. So we're just going to set those aside, and then we're going to start working on the leg and the thigh. So now remember, we popped the leg and the thigh joints backwards. You heard that pop earlier. So they're loose. They're really easy. So once you flip it over on its stomach, you have your back of the chicken facing you. You're going to cut right above the top part of the leg and thigh connection. And the place where I'm sticking my finger, that's called the oysters, okay? The oysters is the most tender part of the chicken, and it's in the back of the thigh part. It's the darkest part. That's kind of like, I guess, where all the blood sits in the chicken, and it's just really tender meat. It's a part of the thigh. So I took my finger and just kind of stuck it in the oyster part to release the meat. And then you take your knife and you glide it down the side, and your leg and thigh should come off pretty easy because remember, we popped that bone. So it's pretty loose. So we're going to do the same thing with the other thigh. I stuck my thumb in there to release that meat, the oyster meat as it's called. And you guys can Google that if you're kind of confused, like what's oyster meat? Google the oyster part of the chicken. It should pop up on Google for you. Okay, so now we're just again going to slice the knife through, and see that bone is loose, and we cut in between the joint. We're not cutting any actual bone. We cut in between the joint of the thigh that was connected to that back. Now that middle piece, you can use that for chicken stock. In culinary school, of course, we're taught not to waste anything. So set that aside. Cook it up in some chicken stock, freeze it, and use it for your stock for the holidays or whatnot. So all I'm doing now is trimming up that chicken thigh, and then we're gonna cut the thigh from the leg. So again, I took my finger and I placed it to find where that bone was or where the joint was and cut right through it. So I'm gonna do it again. Gonna trim up this chicken thigh, cut off the excess fat, and then we're going to flip it over, stuck my finger where that joint is, and your knife will glide right through it. You'll feel it. It's literally like a tiny little gap, and your knife will go right through it, that white part. That's like cartilage in a joint. So we didn't actually cut through any bone. So there you have the thigh and the leg that we've cut up. The whole chicken is pretty cut up at this point, but I'm going to show you guys some more steps and take it a little bit further so you can be a chicken cutting expert. So now we're going to go ahead and cut off the wing, remove it from the breast. So the same thing I did with the legs and the thighs, you'll see that bone and you'll feel it, and you're going to cut right beneath it to release the to release the wing from the breast. It's really simple. So now you're left with the breast, and you can trim it up again. But we're going to remove the tender. That bottom part that's connected, it slides off easily. That's called the chicken tender. Now you guys go to places and you order a chicken tender. It's typically cut up chicken breast, but the chicken actually has a part called a tender that's connected to the breast, and that's the most tender part of the breast, okay? It's really soft. It's the best part to make chicken tenders, but one chicken only comes with 2 tenders. So I know my farmer's market actually sells those tenders by the pound, so you can find them in certain places, but if not, you can cut them up at home. So again, we're gonna slice right beneath that bone of the wing, and it's going to release from the breast. There's our tender. You literally can slide it right off the breast. You don't even have to cut it because it's going to come right off. Trim up that chicken breast, cut off any excess fat, and you know, use your chicken accordingly. So I cut mine like this because I'm going to be using specific pieces. You can keep the wings connected to the breast if you're looking for that kind of look. You can also keep the legs connected to the thigh if you wanted leg and thigh quarters. It's really up to you. So now I'm going to show you guys how to debone a chicken thigh, because I need boneless chicken thighs for a recipe that I'm doing. So literally flip the chicken over, take your knife and run it over the sides of that chicken thigh bone, and just kind of get the meat away from the bone. Then you're going to start scraping it down, literally scraping the meat down off of the bone like so. Literally just scraping it, and then you'll press your knife onto that whole chicken thigh and pull the bone right off. All right, and as you can see, the bone is removed. So you have boneless chicken thigh that you can use for sauteing, for grilling. It's great. And there's your bone. Really simple, you guys. I hope you all enjoyed watching me debone the chicken. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. And you are now a chicken debone expert.